Hello, and welcome to the lab. My name's Rocksteady, and this week on Extract All the Things, we will be doing the Soxhlet extraction of oregano. Oregano is a very common herb. You know, it's an herb that might be in your herb garden at home. It's most certainly probably in your pantry. I guarantee you've probably consumed it if you've ever eaten pizza or pasta. You know, it's very commonly added to Mediterranean cuisines to increase the complexity and depth of flavor. You know, it's a great spice to add to your food because it just increases the flavor profile of whatever you're making. Oregano might also be a good source of various beneficial compounds that may have health-promoting effects. You know, compounds like beta-caryophyllene, you know, which is a big constituent component of essential oils, or rosmarinic acid. And if you guys saw my first video, which was the Soxhlet extraction of rosemary, we were able to precipitate rosmarinic acid straight out of the Soxhlet just using a simple technique. Right here in my hand, I have a oregano plant, and you guys can see it's like it's a nice looking plant. You know, it has kind of like broad, kind of short leaves. The leaves smell fairly intense, actually. It actually smells pretty good. And yeah, it's just a nice looking plant. You know, I'm going to be happy to have this in my herb garden for sure. But what we're actually going to be extracting today is this oregano that's been, ground down and dried. I'm gonna give it a quick smell test. You know, so it's in this mason jar. We're just gonna pop the top and kind of see what we got. So first off, it's very pungent and very earthy, but there's this like subtle hint of mintiness and spiciness. It's a very, very intense smell, and I like it. I can see why it's commonly used as a flavor additive because it smells great. Probably tastes great too. Today what we're going to be doing is a Soxhlet extraction of that material, followed by maybe some various refinement techniques to improve, the coloration of the oil. Then we will do our solvent recovery, we'll purge it, and we'll see what our final crude product looks like. And yeah, we'll see how it smells too. I'm super excited to smell the extract of this because it's just going to smell so intense. I'm excited to see what we make today. But let's begin. Welcome to the bench. I've gone ahead and taken all of the proper safety precautions. I'm wearing safety glasses, a lab coat, and gloves. I've also gone ahead and turned on the ventilation in my workspace. So if you guys hear like a buzzing noise, that's just tons and tons of air moving. Nothing I can do about that. You always want to operate in a well-ventilated area if you're working with flammable solvents. I've gone ahead and set up everything to make it ready for operation. I've teared out everything that's relevant. I've made notes in the laboratory log of everything that's relevant. And yeah, we're ready to begin. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab my thimble. If you don't know how to run Soxhlet, go check out my first video. I'm not going to go as in-depth as a description this time of the Soxhlet. We're just going to run it. But if you're looking to run Soxhlet, be sure to check out my first video. I go pretty in-depth into how to run it, how it works, all that kind of stuff. I will put the link in the description so you can go check it out. So we're going to be filling our thimble, and the thimble will hold our biomass. I'm going to be using a 3D printed thimble funnel. I designed this. I use these all the time. It makes loading your thimbles way cleaner and easier. The link to this is in my Thingiverse, and you can print it yourself. But we're just going to drop it into the thimble, and we're going to target 100 grams of biomass. So we'll zero that out. And what's nice about having a funnel on your thimble is you can just kind of pour, and it's not going to make a terrible mess, which is always appreciated. So this might take a second. This stuff is really, really fluffy. It's not very dense. Right now we're at 20 grams, and it's already like half full. So let's see what we can fit in here. Generally I recommend against compacting a Soxhlet just because you don't want to make it harder for the solvent to kind of saturate the material. But the stuff is so fluffy and dense, I'm just gonna kind of compact it a little bit so we can get a little bit more material in there. So we're at 40 grams. Looks like we'll be doing 50 grams. That's gonna be our target. Because I don't think I can fit 100 grams into this thimble. All right, we got 50 grams in the thimble. We'll take out our funnel. You know, I got so much oregano now, like, yeah, I'm never gonna need to buy oregano again. And we will move on to our solvent system. So I've already teared out this beaker, put it on the scale. So today, we're gonna be doing a one-to-one solvent system between, one-to-one by weight, I should say, between distilled water and grain alcohol. So this is grain alcohol. This is 95% ethanol, 5% water, and you know, it's a great solvent. It's yeah, nice and clean, user-friendly, all that stuff. I use this stuff all the time. We're gonna weigh out 300 grams of this grain alcohol. Okay, 301 grams of our ethanol. So make note of that. Next, we're gonna be doing our water. So this is distilled water, you know, pretty standard stuff. I'm gonna zero this. I'm gonna weigh out another 300 grams. There we go. So 304, a little heavy, that's okay though. Put that off to the side. And make note of that real quick. All right, awesome. So now our solvent system is good to go. All right, so I grabbed the funnel and we got our boiling flask. This is a 1 liter boiling flask. There's a stir bar in the bottom that's ready to go. Yeah, we're just going to fill this up with our solvent system. Okay, now that's done. Let's set that off to the side. Yeah, there we go. There's our. Okay, now we can begin setting up our apparatus. You know, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take our Soxhlet main body, right? And we are very, very carefully gonna slide in our thimble. This can be really tricky sometimes, especially if your thimble's really full. You know, you never want to, yeah, drop it in there because you will just break it. Yeah, we're gonna grease this as well, real quick. So this is just Dow Corning grease, it's nothing special. But just a small little dab will do ya. I usually do 2 small lines. We can insert that into our boiling flask. Give it a good spin to ensure thorough distribution. Then we can get our second clamp onto the system, just so you know, it holds decently well. Ah, beautiful. So now we can take our condenser, right? So this is our condenser. Essentially, we'll condense our vapor and ensure that, yeah, we're distilling our solvent. I'm gonna throw a couple of daubs of grease on there, just because that's a big, big joint with a lot of surface area. I'm gonna make sure this joint up top is clean. We're gonna put that on there, give her a good spin. And that's looking good. I'm gonna go ahead and initialize our chiller. See, it fills up. Flows out. Very beautiful, very good. We're almost ready to begin running. Okay, so our system's online, the mantle's heating up, and you know, everything is moving forward. I want to touch on a few things though, and I go more in depth with this on you know, the first video that I did, the extraction of rosemary, but I always insulate this vapor path on the side here, just because you know, it allows you to run much quicker. I also always insulate this boiling flask, just because you know, I live in a fairly cold place where ambient temperatures are usually pretty low, and you know, it just takes a long time for stuff to heat up, and you know, it goes way quicker if you insulate it. And I recommend the usage of fire rope, you know, fiberglass fire rope for insulating this boiling flask. You know, I just kind of put it on there, you know, make sure I get a nice, good, tight coil. And this works really, really well. You know, just a word of advice and warning. You know, if you're working with this fiberglass rope, ensure that you wear gloves, because those, the fiberglass shards will, you know, just get into your skin, and they really, really suck, and they're really annoying. So just make sure it doesn't touch, like, you know, your hands without glove. You will get little shards of fiberglass in you, which aren't fun. And I speak from experience, trust me. You know, there we go. You can kind of see the wrap job. So we got the system all set up. You know, it's heating up. It'll take a little bit of time for everything to get to temp and for you know, solvent to start distilling. But so far so good. We'll see how fast she runs today. So we've been operating for about 25 minutes now. You know, the system is functioning flawlessly. You know, everything is nominal. Our mantle is at its set point. The chiller's at its set point. We have vapor that is boiling in this boiling flask, and then traveling up this vapor path right here, interacting with this condenser and condensing, and then dripping back down into our thimble. And you can see down in the base of the Soxhlet body this beautiful golden solution, and that's our extract or tincture. It looks really, really nice. I'm excited to see what it looks like when it's concentrated and the solvent is removed. We may throw some color remediation techniques at it, you know, utilizing refinement filtration, stuff like that, to remove any undesirables, you know, chlorophyll, stuff of that nature. If you're wondering about this sweatband right here, as I call it, that is mainly to capture external condensate drops up on this condenser. You know, it just keeps a tidier workbench. I'm excited to see it cycle. You know, we should see it cycle in the next, I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes, something like that. We'll see. But so far, so good. It's full steam ahead for sure. So we're approaching our first siphon and our first cycle. You know, we started running, you know, 4:15, and it's like 5:58 right now. So yeah, you know, that's about an hour, hour and a half, hour 45 minutes, something like that, that we've been running. It's been pretty slow today, just because ambient temperatures in the lab are pretty low. You know, the lab right now is like 44, 45 degrees Fahrenheit. You know, it's a pretty cold day. So we're approaching our first siphon. You know, I've been running for about an hour and a half now, and you know, the reservoir is completely full, the material is completely saturated. You guys can see this beautiful gold color, which is just a phenomenal coloration. I love that, and it looks good. You know, the material is extracting very well, and right now in this siphon tube, we can see that it's just about to crest and go over, and as soon as it does, it's going to form a siphon, which is essentially, you know, creates a vacuum, and it's going to pull everything else with it, and it's going to empty this reservoir, and yeah, it's going to be cool. You know, this is one of my favorite aspects of Soxhlet. It's just it's super cool to watch it siphon, and you know, it's just a very, very cool technique. So we got through our first cycle, we're halfway through our second cycle, and you can see just how dark this material has become. You know, that's usually a good indication that you know, it's just loaded up with you know, compounds that we want to extract, and slowly we're getting through it. I think we will do maybe 1 or 2 more cycles. We'll see, probably 3 cycles total. But just look how dark that is. That stuff is, yeah, really intense looking. Looks nice though, looks nice. We're definitely gonna remove some of this chlorophyll with a filtration technique I'm gonna teach you guys. So we successfully completed our Soxhlet extraction of oregano. We had 3 cycles. It yielded this gloriously green product. So in here is oregano tincture, or you know, extract, whatever you want to call it. And you know, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do rough filtration with a Buckner funnel. And I showed this in my first video. You know, this is a pretty standard piece of glassware in any lab. This is a nicer one with glass-on-glass fittings and all that kind of stuff, a center disc. But essentially we're going to be doing that with a coffee filter. First thing we're going to do though is grease it up. Real quick, just a little dab. Throw that on there, give her a good spin. Then we're going to hook up our vacuum line. You know, I got my vacuum pump off screen. It should be noted it's a chemical duty vacuum pump. You know, it's a Yolvac DTC 41, which is a great pump. Can't recommend them enough. And what we're going to do is just put our coffee filter in here. wet it with a little bit of solvent so the paper sucks down onto the center disc. You don't need much. And I'm going to turn on the vacuum pump. This will suck down. And we're just doing this filtration to mainly remove, any debris. There's a little bit of debris, like oregano dust or material that was in the Soxhlet reservoir, and we just want to filter that out. Also, I'm doing this to see if we have any precipitation, and all I'm going to do is just start pouring this through, and then once this has been filtered, we will move to doing some refinement filtration. So we've finished our rough filtration. We removed some particulate matter from our solution. And here in front of me, I have set up a refinement filtration column. And it consists of a DCVC column. And DCVC stands for dry column vacuum chromatography. It should be noted that we're not doing DCVC. We're just using a DCVC column for this. Also, I have a 2440 Erlenmeyer flask with a sidearm, which will be the receiving flask for this column. This column has a nice coarse center disc to hold back the media. And in front of me, I have a selection of medias. I have granular activated carbon. I have T5, which is a form of bentonite clay. And then also I have Soxhlet 545. And Soxhlet is a form of diatomaceous earth. And essentially these medias are going to selectively pull out undesirables from our solution and make a better, purer product. We're going to start with the Soxhlet 545, followed by the T5, and then I have 2 parts of carbon here because we're also going to be doing a carbon scrub, which I'll show you guys. But yeah, the carbon will go on top. And it should be noted that these present inhalation hazards, so I have my respirator on. You should always work with medias in either a hood or while wearing a respirator. I always wear a respirator when I'm working with medias, especially anything silica-based. Anything silica-based could give you silicosis, and that's no joke. But yeah, always be safe. Wear a respirator when appropriate. But what we're going to do is we're going to load up the column now. So we're going to start with the Soxhlet. And I'm just going to be dry loading. You can slurry load, and there's tons of techniques. I mean, this whole media thing is a massive rabbit hole, and in future videos I will definitely dive deeper into it. We're just going to be dry loading. So we're going to start with the Soxhlet. I'm going to put on my respirator. Okay, so we got the Soxhlet loaded. Now we're going to load our T5. It should be noted that I'm using a small amount of T5. T5 likes to form like a clay when it gets wet that is really slow filtering, so I try to use as little as possible. But back on the respirator. Okay, and now that's done. I'm going to cap this real quick with a piece of tin foil. And then we're going to take our other part of activated carbon, and we're just going to pour this into our solution. But before I do that, I'm going to take a paper towel, just make sure I wipe off all the grease. Always want to make sure you wipe off the grease. And yeah, we're just going to pour this carbon into this flask. And give it a quick shake and stir. And then now we're going to prepare our system for operation. So I'm going to take off this cap, put in this funnel, and turn on my vacuum. And before I begin, I'm going to clean up my workstation real quick, and we'll begin. Okay, now we're ready to begin. So we're going to take our solution, give it a good stir, and just pour it into the funnel. Up to there should be good. And you can see the band coming down as it works its way through the media. It's interacting with the media right now, and the media is, absorbing, certain things. Like the carbon is going to be doing the majority of the heavy lifting, so it's going to be pulling out all the chlorophyll and, a lot of the organics. It should be mentioned that it will also pull our targeted compounds as well as things that we consider undesirable. So by doing this, you're going to have a loss, essentially, and you can elute them later on and do all sorts of stuff. But you know, if you're doing filtration like this, just expect to have a slight loss. You know, it's just part of the nature of it. But yeah, you know, this is also a pretty slow process, so this will probably take me, I don't know, maybe half an hour to filter or something like that. But yeah, we're just gonna let it run, and yeah, we're gonna see what we make. I can guarantee you it's not gonna be green anymore, though. So we've been running for about you know, 10 or 15 minutes now, and we have this glorious fiery orange color in the receiving flask. It's no longer green, so the activated carbon has done its job and removed the chlorophyll from solution, and yeah, we're left with a much purer product. And yeah, it looks pretty good. I'm excited to see what it looks like in our sample jar compared to what we started with. It's a night and day difference. You know, it just goes to show how powerful of a technique this is. So our refinement filtration of oregano was successful. I'm going to vent the system right now, and we're going to see what we made. So remove the column and set this aside. But yeah, check that out. So if you'll remember, it started as this color, right? This kind of opaque green, and we turned it into this color through the magic of magic dirt, aka filter medias. But yeah, that was a very successful run right there. You know, I could probably get the color even better with some tuning of the medias that we used. But for an initial run, I'd say that's definitely a success. You know, the main thing is we got the green out, and yeah, we made a nice looking product. So I'm going to set up solvent recovery right now, and yeah, we're going to recover our solvent and yeah, see what we made. So I got solvent recovery set up. The bath's heating up right now. The chiller's running. I got a pear-shaped flask right here, and our beautiful filtrate. You know, it's this like fiery orange color. I quite dig the coloration on it. And I'm gonna pour, you know, 250 mils or so into this pear-shaped flask. It should be noted that we are running a bump trap on this. So, you know, it's got a bump trap. Everything's been greased, you know, all that good stuff. It's pretty much ready to go. And yeah, we're almost ready. You know, the bath is almost at temp. You know, we got a little bit to go, and it's super cold here right now. It's like, yeah, it's pretty cold here right now. So it's gonna take a while to heat it up. But yeah, we'll take our pear-shaped flask, install it onto the bump trap, and initialize our vacuum pump. And we'll just lower that into the water. Begin rotations. We'll target like 75, something like that. 70, that works. And we'll just let it run. I'm excited to see the final consistency of this product. It might be dark, but it's not going to be green though. It'll be sweet. This filtrate just smells like concentrated oregano. You know, it's such a good smell. I like the smell of oregano. It's not as good as the last video I did, you know, the chamomile. The chamomile is bar none one of the best smelling extracts I've ever smelled. And I've smelled a lot of extracts, but chamomile is just on a whole nother level. But this stuff still smells like really good, really good. It smells like a pizzeria. You know, like straight up, it smells like a pizzeria. I dig it, I dig it. You know, our bath is slowly increasing in temperature. You know, the set point is 55°C, and we're currently at 47, so we're almost there. You know, we're boiling at a pretty decent rate. We're not like boiling like vigorously in the boiling flask, but we are condensing on our condenser at a respectable rate. You know, we're recovering at a decent pace, I would say. This flask is already getting kind of low, so here probably in like 3 or 4 minutes I'm gonna break vacuum and refill it, and looks like we're gonna get through this pretty quick, which is nice. If you're interested and curious about rotovaps, in my first video I go in depth, about how they work and kind of some like their operating principles and stuff like that. I will definitely expand upon that in a future video. I got some really cool rotovap videos planned. It's gonna be fun. Some stuff I've wanted to do forever, and I just never gotten around to it. But it's gonna be fun. I plan to do a lot with rotovaps, and I got a few. This isn't my only one. This is my smallest one, but I definitely got some ideas planned. So our solvent recovery of oregano was complete and successful. We ended up with a really, really interesting product. So it's almost like it's two parts, right? You have this oil that is very thin, very translucent, and then you have this other component which is like crystallizing in the flask. And I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see that, but those are all little crystals. And I also have on the bench here the receiving flask for the rotovap. And you guys will see how discolored that is and how yellow it is. But here's something fascinating, and something I think is a excellent demonstration of the volatility of essentially the flavors of oregano, right? You smell this flask and it smells exactly like oregano. Now, you smell this flask right here, and it smells almost nothing like oregano. It doesn't have that mintiness or that spiciness, It just has the bitterness of the oregano scent. And that's due to the fact that whatever those compounds are that give oregano its characteristic smell, they are super volatile. They're volatile enough to be, essentially distilled out during solvent recovery and end up in our receiving flask. And that can not only be demonstrated by the smell that comes out of this flask, but also by the coloration. And it's actually pretty fascinating. I think it's an excellent demonstration. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull a sample of this for further analysis down the road. And then also, we're going to try to get this out of the flask. I already attempted to scrape it, and it scrapes off fairly readily, fairly easily. But I might just end up hitting this with a little bit of ethanol and getting it out, because it just doesn't want to come out. But we'll see. I will update you guys here once I figure out how I'm going to get this out of the flask. I ended up just scraping it out, and it comes out as a nice kind of brownish powder, which will look pretty nice, I think, in a dish. So I'm going to pour that out shortly, but first I'm just going to take a weight. I haven't weighed this thing out yet. Yeah, that's a terrible yield. There's 2.5 grams of material in here. And mind you, we started with 50 grams. So that's like what, like a 4 or 5% yield? There really isn't much in oregano to begin with. But I think we lost a good portion of our yield in this flask, which, happens. I probably could have pulled it sooner, but the reality is we would have lost this in the vacuum oven anyways. I think this is mostly, well, it's hard to say without analytics. I guarantee you we lost, a couple points to solvent recovery. There's probably a large amount of beta-caryophyllene, a relatively large amount of beta-caryophyllene. As far as this material goes, I'm pretty sure this was going to be like thymol and rosmarinic acid, maybe Naragen, clavicrol, maybe. It's hard to say. I'm going to pull a sample, and we will definitely get some eyes on it eventually. But overall, I think it was a decent extraction. I'm going to pour this out into a tray, and we'll get a better look at this material. We did it. We successfully extracted oregano utilizing Soxhlet. We yielded a fine product. It's this kind of weird pseudo-crystalline brown powder. The smell of the extract is nothing to write home about. You know, it's fairly bitter, and it's not as intense as just like the oregano smell. But you know, that is what it is. You know, I don't know what I expected going into this, but overall the results, they pleased and surprised me. So yeah, I'm kind of stoked on it, you know. Overall though, I think the extraction went very well, and I can't wait to get some eyes on what's in the material. You know, we'll run some analysis on it, see what's up. I hope you guys enjoyed your time in my lab, and yeah, I appreciate you guys joining me on my quest to extract all the things. And yeah, I got to give a shout out to the sponsor of this video. This video was sponsored by Gold Leaf Scientific. You know, Gold Leaf Scientific is a laboratory supply company that I've done business with for a long time now. You know, they have great glassware, you know, distillation systems, and you know, whatever you need, from you know, custom built stuff to repair services. Gold Leaf has you covered. You know, go check them out. That's Gold Leaf Scientific at goldleaflabs.com. I'll put a link in the description. You know, go check them out. But overall, if you like this kind of content, please comment, like, subscribe, and join me on my quest to extract all the things. You know, this is my third video, and I feel like I'm getting better. I'm getting more comfortable in front of the camera, at least. And yeah, I'm going to keep improving. But yeah, give me some feedback. Let me know how I did. You know, I appreciate it. And yeah, I will definitely catch you guys in the next one.